Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael, and Molly is unfortunately out today, but in her place, we have a very exciting guest back on the pod. I know he was very upset to have missed being able to talk about Zach Brown last week, but he'll have to do a double elimination instead. It's our good friend Brian Scally from the Free Agents podcast. Scally, how are you?
Hello, Michael. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm very excited to talk about an episode with two boots. Even if I can't rant about Zach Brown as much as I might otherwise, but I am excited to be here talking about the 50th season of Survivor.
Yeah, wow. What a I was so excited. I didn't even say what we were talking about today. That's how excited I was to do it. But yes, we are here to talk about episode 5 of Survivor 50. And we'll get a little Zach Brown in there, I'm sure, at some point eventually. So you'll get your rants in. But Scally, it's been a while since we've had you on, too long. But how's everything going in your world?
Things are good. Staying busy over at the Free Agents, doing a full challenge rewatch. So that's definitely kept us very busy. Obviously, lots and lots of other shows are going on. So on the reality TV side, very busy. And then just, trying to make life simple if as much as possible. But it is what it is.
That's all we can ask for these days, right? But no, very exciting time in the challenge world as well with 42 filming. So lots to come with that as well. But we are here, as we mentioned, to talk Survivor 50 today. So we are 5 episodes in now, well into the season. Give me your thoughts on everything that you're feeling so far about it.
I definitely came in and was a skeptic in the preseason. I was not so sure this cast. It's a really big cast. It's still a short number of seasons. I wasn't sure exactly how or a certain number of days. I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. But the first like two episodes, especially, really like, all right, you're quelling some of my fears. The preseason content was good. I feel like some of these people were here as different versions of themselves. They've grown. We are excited to see that. But as it's gone on, some questionable editing decisions, maybe some people reverting back to exactly who we thought they were. I have been cautious, but still like I'm enjoying every week. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited to come back to the show, but just not on the high that I was maybe on the premiere.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this season a lot so far. I was with you, I think when the cast first got announced, there was a lot of negativity surrounding it and the season in general, and kind of a lot of the excitement that had built up over all the time of just waiting to see who was going to be on it and all the messiness of the preseason. And then when the cast was announced, it was like, is this really what we wanted? But I feel like, and I'll give a big shout out to Mike Bloom, that I think his interviews really got me hyped up again for it. That it was just like you said, like I felt like, okay, now I get why this person was chosen. And I do feel like a lot of that so far during the season we have seen play out. There's been a lot of like flashbacks, which we don't really get on Survivor very much to previous seasons, and we kind of get a lot of their story of like why they're hungry to be here. So that has helped a lot, I feel like, for me to be like, okay, for the most part, I'm still really sad not to see certain people, but I understand why most of this cast was picked.
Yeah, at least on what they sold. I'm very I think this episode especially we started delving into like, oh, you cannot change fully as some of these people. I think like the innate building blocks of a person sometimes are a little more locked in than they might like them to be. And so I thought it was both like interesting and disappointing, but also kind of fun to like revisit some people who have not changed as much as they thought think they have.
Absolutely. Well, we will get into many of those in today's episode, but let's kind of start with the beginning here. So, after Vatu's tribal last week, Ozzy tells Christian that he wishes that he would have been let in on the Mike White vote. What do you think about the way that Christian handled that whole situation last week?
I think it's tough. I think Christian, in my opinion, probably was just like in one of the worst positions possible where he has people in one side of Angelina and Mike White and one side of Ozzy and Emily. And I think you would say like it's unfortunate because he's put in a position where he has to betray an ally, but he's also choosing a side which I don't think is made up of phenomenal allies anyway in either position. So I think that's tough of like you're going to make a big betrayal and not really benefit from it all that much in terms of who you're going to be left with. So I am a little bit nervous, I think, as far as how he handled tough to criticize, maybe the wrong decision, but correct execution. I think, as Ozzy points out here, I think he would have been super amenable to going along with the plan. And I think that trying to take all of the blame probably was going to be where it landed anyway. And at least he looks a little more upfront and trustworthy to the allies who are not extremely pissed at him.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like last week I was kind of low on Christian's decision to go after Mike at all. I understood the fact that, like, yeah, he wants to get out of the trio because, like, going into merge with a trio that just puts such a target on your back, and I think that he felt the need to distance himself from that as much as possible. But I feel like Emily, I didn't trust that she was going to be a solid ally for him because she's proven time and time again to not be somebody who you can trust with any information because go as soon as she feels betrayed. And I love her for this. This is why she was cast, and I'm so glad that she does this. But I don't know as Christian that I would trust her as an ally so much. But she kind of, I mean, we'll go to get into it, but she stuck with him today, so maybe I was wrong about that.
Yeah, I was interested, I thought, at the first sign of peril that Emily might go ahead and ditch Christian coming up, but maybe she's not as like eager to do so, and in fact was similarly frustrated with how Ozzy was handling everything, at least as to what we were shown. So excited about that. I think Emily still a little under edited as much as she has the most confessionals of any woman on the season. She still has half of that of Ozzy and Christian, I believe. So something like that.
Wow.
So I'm still looking to get really her point of view. I feel like we get okay, she wants to align with Ozzy, but how is she feeling about Christian? How is she feeling about the Mike White decision? Like, who is she looking to? Who is she closer to moving forward? I think we could stand to get a little bit more.
We definitely could from all of the women as, we'll talk about that with Angelina. But yeah, wow, that's a wild stat. But yeah, I wonder if Emily's gonna kind of it's almost a similar trajectory that she had on 45, where it's like in the beginning of the season, she's one person, and then as the season goes on, she like learns these lessons and has this wild transformation. And I almost could see it happen in a different way this time, where it's like in the beginning of the season, she's betraying all her allies and all this stuff. And then, like, as the season goes on, she's learning and able to be like, okay, maybe I can trust this, but maybe I don't need to be so impulsive. And like, she's kind of learning these lessons. And we see this great transformation that maybe she'll not do it so much anymore.
Yeah, I feel like obviously Emily had been a little frustrated by her storyline there, but I
Yeah.
wondered kind of when you have someone who's gone through like a growth arc on Survivor in their return, they're not gonna be that same character that they were at first, and so I was a little bit curious to see like what does Emily bring to the season, and I think she's a super entertaining personality who's like super fun, very strategic, and though I feel like they've kind of found a way to not fully go back to early Emily, but maybe make her a little bit um less serious than I think she actually is. I think that
Hmm.
she is like a real contender, like very smart, and I feel like instead we're getting really Christian propped up as that like
Yeah.
solely that position here.
Yeah, definitely. But I think Emily's in it for the long haul. I'm gonna say I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm excited to see where she goes from here. But let's go over to Sela. So the four original Kalos that are on the Sela tribe now, Jonathan, Camilla, Charlie, and Dee, all kind of tell each other that they want to work together, but in reality, it seems very tenuous. It seems like that is the only thing holding them together, is the fact that they were coming from the same tribe. So they kind of say to each other, like, "Oh, it's going to be Rizzo. That their target is going to be Rizzo." However, Dee has a conversation with Rizzo and bonds with him when he tells her about the Billie Eilish idol. One of my favorite things this episode that was just kind of like a through line was just Rizzo constantly telling everybody about the Billie Eilish idol and just seeing everybody's reaction to hearing her name. That was such a fun thing.
It's so silly that it's very interesting. Like to have Suri finally get like some screen time this week as opposed to last time, and it's to talk about the Billie Eilish title. It's like okay,
Yeah, one of the people he had already told about it before, but yeah, I really kind of like Dee and Rizzo as a little duo. I really I don't know how you feel about Rizzo. I know he's very controversial, but I'm a Rizzo guy. I like Rizzo, and I of course love Dee. And I like the fact that she is not just kind of going along with this four and going with Rizzo, but now I saw just before recording this actually. I think that Charlie said that Dee and Rizzo had a FaceTime preseason and that they had kind of made some sort of pregame alliance. So maybe that has something to do with it. But excluding that possibility, I liked seeing them bond here.
very much so. That's super interesting. I will say, I guess, like I am a guy's guy when it comes to Rizzo. I like Rizzo. I think he's been super fun on both of his seasons, and I wasn't sure how it really was going to go this time necessarily. Coming in as an unknown, coming in significantly younger than a lot of people on the cast, having no connections. I really was not sure specifically how this tribal was going to go, and I wasn't necessarily super nervous for him, but that's also because I probably assumed that they might not go to tribal. So I thought Rizzo was in a decent position, but seeing how he really worked the numbers on his tribe and got people who I really don't think should have been super incentivized to go with him, was very impressive. I think Rizzo is pretty underrated at this point.
I agree with that. And, there's a lot of talk about how the 49, that 50 filmed before 49 aired. And so I wonder so much, like, if they had been able to see 49, how differently people's relationships with Rizzo would play out. And Savannah, of course, earlier on in the season. But I wonder whether he would have had a bigger target on his back because of how showy he was with his idol and everything with that, or whether he would have had less of a target because at least it's the enemy you know versus the enemy you don't know.
Yeah, I think probably honestly a bigger target. I feel like
I
his
agree.
personality is kind of disarming, and I think that the fan base I think his short-term memory and kind of links him to like a Xander type of like had an idol for a
Mm.
long time but never needed to use it, and was in there but maybe wasn't as active as like the edit wanted us to think so, but I don't think that's true. I feel like I point back specifically to the split tribal of last season where it just should have been Rizzo, there's no question, and I guess kind of repeating itself here where it just should have been Rizzo like pretty easily, and that's not the case at all. In fact, he has every single person begging Rizzo to work with him, and like finds long-term allies like in Sophie. So I think Rizzo does a really, really underrated job at actually playing the social game here.
Well, one person who may have had less of a problem with Rizzo if he had watched 49 is Charlie, because he is still pissed at Rizzo because Rizzo had said a couple nights before that he did not vote for his number one ally, which, of course, as we know, is not necessarily the case, as what we saw at least. But Charlie is still really clinging on to this and wanting to get Rizzo out of here and not have him on the jury. So in the middle of the night, Charlie asks Rizzo who all he told about the Billie Eilish idol. first, before we get into all the rest of what happens there, what do you think about Charlie just kind of like in the middle of the night, seemingly going up to Rizzo and asking him about this?
I know there's such a thing on Survivor about how like a lot of the game is played early in the morning, and I think this is something Charlie's even talked about of
Yes.
like if you go off late at night, you're seen as suspicious, but if you're up before other people and like manage to sneak away, it's like not really clocked for whatever reason. So I'm wondering how like far before the sunrise this really was. Was it really in the middle of the night or was it 10 minutes like the sun was on the
Hmm.
horizon? It's a little dark. So I think for Charlie, yeah, a little sketchy, but I think more confirmation bias of Rizzo and Charlie are butting heads. Charlie's getting kind of a goofy edit, which I thought was like a little harsh, honestly. So I am not putting too much on this one specific moment as much as I think Charlie ultimately failed in his social relationships with the people from his pre-existing tribe.
Hmm. You know what this reminded me of? Are you watching Survivor AU this season?
I am not yet. It is the
Oh,
type of
okay.
thing where I'm just like, I'm gonna binge it, and I
Oh,
will.
okay. I won't spoil anything then, but there
Oh,
was kind of
please.
a it was a kind of like the middle of the night conversation that this reminded me of. But
Okay. Tell me.
well, Rizzo admits that he told Dee about the Billie Eilish idol, and Charlie then admits to telling Jonathan because he says that Jonathan was clocking it or seemed to know what was going on with it, so he didn't want to feign ignorance and just told him about it. But Rizzo doesn't believe that story about Jonathan. And seemingly, this is kind of the first time that we see Rizzo now this being like a feud for both of them and not just a
Yeah.
one-sided feud on Charlie's side. So what did you think about the fact that Rizzo really like kind of clung into that moment, that thing that Charlie said?
I think it's interesting because I feel like Rizzo had to pick up on weird vibes from Charlie before this. Probably, like, I don't
Yeah.
know if this was enough that was going to just completely destroy the relationship because we've seen Rizzo and Charlie have multiple conversations. Rizzo attempting with Charlie first to tell him about the idol before anyone else. So it feels like Rizzo would maybe think that was a natural ally, go ahead and work with Charlie. But I just feel like the vibes were rancid. Rizzo picked up on it. And I think that is probably the bigger mistake that Charlie makes here is allowing Rizzo to clock that there's an issue and to pick up on that. Okay, he told Jonathan. I think if he had just said like Jonathan did this, Rizzo might be like, "That's weird," but I'm not going to look too much into it.
Mhm. And I even think that if he had just said, "Yeah, I told Jonathan," it wouldn't have
Yeah,
been a huge thing, but it was the fact that he then said, "Jonathan seemed to pick," it was like that part of it felt like a lie, and so then it's like, "Well, why are you lying about that?" And then it's just kind of like that snowballs in his mind of
yeah.
like, "Okay, there's something that Charlie is hiding from me, and so he needs to go." So yeah, I was glad though to see that whatever it was that caused this, that Rizzo is now like on the same through line as Charlie is about their feud because my fear was that Charlie's going to start this whole war against Rizzo and Rizzo has no idea and then not going to play his idol and then that's going to be the downfall. So I was glad to see that at the very least. But Rizzo is able to get D and Suri on board here to target Charlie. I will say, I always thought that Suri was and Charlie were not going to be able to work together well because I thought Suri is going to see Charlie as a Corey Wurtenberger, and she does not like to work with those types of players.
It's funny because you could very easily see Rizzo as a Corey Wurtenberger,
That's what I
also.
do.
You
I
know,
think she sees him as
so
like too young, almost like too
too
innocent,
unmarried.
maybe.
I think that Rizzo just like had the better approach. As much as I like Rizzo, seeing Sari Fields be like, "Thank God Rizzo is saving me," I was like, "Oh, this feels weird." So, like, I like him. I don't have him on that same level of like Survivor legend as Sari, and like who really is. But it was very funny to see all of a sudden like Sari and Rizzo, who I really did not clock being a potential relationship over, even if I thought the Charlie could be a Corey Wurtenberger type for Suri, I thought maybe the like shared very large targets that both of them have could have been a bonding point, and it feels like it wasn't played up enough.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. But let's go over to the Callow tribe very quickly. We don't see much of them this episode, as per most episodes, since they never go to tribal. But we do get a segment of Coach giving names to everybody in his alliance. So he calls himself the Tidewalker, Joe is the Stonebell Monk, and Colby is the Oakbound Warrior. Now, Scally, what would your nickname be if
Oh
you were part
god.
of this alliance?
Coach would have just voted me out. That's the problem. God, the sleeping giant. I have no idea. Um, yeah.
It's weird because they're not like alliterations, they're not like part of like with your like anything with the name, so it's like hard to think of like what it would or should be, but like because I want to say it's like Scally I don't know,
I'm just
but that's not
not
really what
brushed up on
names work.
my like Japanese mythology, so
No, me neither. No,
so
but
unfortunately I can't pull out of thin air. But for me, I felt like I remembered Coach in the preseason being like, I'm not doing the nickname thing, I'm not drawing attention to myself. It's like, okay, same Coach, different font, like slightly. Like it is the same exact thing, he's just pulling different origins.
yeah, exactly. But it seems to be working, and I do think there's something to be said about like not only naming your alliance, but having like roles within it and nicknames within it. I feel like that's something we see mostly on Big Brother, but it really does, I think, work to make people feel like it's real and they're a part of something. And like I think there's something psychological about that that it really does work to like solidify an alliance.
I think you need both the right target, and I think someone like Joe is exactly the right target who's like, you know, d- hooyah, like, yeah, me and Coach and the boys,
Yeah.
that's gonna work for. And so I think the target was good. Whereas I feel like Colby was a little bit more side eyeing, like, what is this man talking about? But I'm gonna accept it. But I also think to give Coach some credit, he had been under fire a little bit from Ozzy early in the season of Coach has not changed. He's going to backstab you. He did it to me. He'll do it again. And I think Coach is pulling out of what I don't necessarily he would consider his playbook, but others might, in making himself seem a little more disarming. I'm just here. I'm giving nicknames. I'm, throwing these alliances together. And I think it's if not a calculated move, still working to his benefit.
Absolutely. He seems to be in a great like, one of the best positions I think of anyone so far this
Mhm.
season, and, I mean, even preseason, we saw so many people like, he was my, like, for my winner pick preseason because I just thought, like, everyone seems to wanna play with him and want to be around him, and he just everyone was so taken to him, and it seems to be absolutely playing out as the season goes on that that is continuing, and everybody's just loving him and loving everything of the character of Coach and just playing. It's just it seems like he's untouchable at this point.
For sure. And I feel like he has relationships with everyone. He's
Yeah.
constantly shown as, yeah, he's in the big alliance, but he's also reaching out to Chrissy and picking her up. And in this
Mhm.
episode, he's reaching out to Aubrey and he's picking her up.
Yeah.
And being that I didn't know how long Aubrey was going to be for this tribe, considering her positioning. Yeah, she has an idol, but how if they go to two tribals, that was going to be very concerning. And now all of a sudden there's this Aubrey and Coach alliance, which I can really see working well because Aubrey likes goofy people and Coach is goofy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Aubrey is slowly working her way back in because now she has, Tiffany, she has Coach, and those relationships, like, it almost makes me now fear that, like, the tides would turn on Genevieve if they would have gone to tribal, that I think that Aubrey might have the more solid relationships at this point that she can work with and that Coach can pull in other people, and that makes me feel like that she, especially with the idol, is in a pretty good spot here at this point.
Yeah, I wish we knew anything about Tiffany's game to know where she really stands, because
She's getting her
I
3rd
mean,
confessional next week.
yeah, oh,
Watch
outside of
out.
Aubrey being I guess outside of Aubrey being like, Tiffany, a conch shell. Like that's really or a conch shell. Like that's really all we got. She's, a standout in the challenge, but I have no idea what any of her relationships are in this game outside of the fact that she was with Dee and Camilla previously.
Mhm.
So is she close with Coach? Would she have just been an easy boot from this tribe? Would she have been like a backup if Aubrey still is the target? I don't know, but uh I wish we got to see anything more from Tiffany.
I certainly do too. I love Tiffany, and I wonder if it almost is like, is she gonna just gonna be completely purpled and out soon, or is this a good sign for her longevity? Not that I think at this point maybe it's too late to where she could be winning at it, but she could be a final losing finalist or final four, final five, and like kind of build momentum as the season goes on. They feel like we have time. It's hard to tell. Who knows?
I feel like I would have thought maybe she sticks around and warms up as a character and kind of like heats into a good storyline. But I think as we saw this week, not getting confessionals doesn't mean you're going to start getting
Yeah.
them before you go home.
It's a weird season because there's 24 people, so it's like the rule book that we know in terms of that might
Yeah,
be thrown out the window a little bit just because
a
we've
little bit
never quite had anything like this on Survivor US. So,
for sure.
well, then we get to the immunity challenge, but before that, Jeff reveals that only one tribal is going to win immunity, and both of the other tribes will be voting someone out. Kahlo ends up winning this challenge, which sends Vatu back to tribal and Sela to their first tribal. Did any of that surprise you?
Not necessarily. I think I might have thought that Sela was the favorite, but it seemed like they actually were starting to trend towards last place
Yeah.
outright. So I did have my eyes on them, but I would say more so thank God we're finally starting to eliminate two people an episode because I am very nervous.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't believe I mean, I just thought I think as most people thought that the whole pre-merge was gonna be one tribe winning immunity and two going to tribal. So, I'm kind of glad we didn't get that because I do think this way, at least, even if we don't see as much as we would like of certain people, at least we get more people on more episodes. And on a cast like this, you do want that. It would really suck to have some of these people just out in the second episode because there's two tribals that we're now getting for 3 or 4 extra episodes. So I can't be too mad about it, but I do wonder how now that apparently we're getting a merge next week, like what are we going to do here to get rid of these people?
I have been trying to hold in the entire time about how terrified I am of what is it, a 17-person merge?
Like
13 people's too many. I want to vomit.
are like 4 of them going to be up in the Sandra and Rob booth? Like where are they going to sit?
I actually am terrified that we're going to lose multiple people in some stupid, twisty, like roulette type game, like something really dumb, evocative of the Rachel Riley hamster wheel
Oh
from
god.
like I am terrified of what's coming.
Oh. I okay. I will be I think at least I do think that everything will be like by a vote. I think. I
Yay.
hope. I think. I just think Survivor doesn't mess with their format quite that much like Big Brother does sometimes.
when when the do or die makes its return for
Oh
five
god, if we're gonna
players
go do
next
or
week,
die.
10 people play do or die on next episode.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay, well now I'm scared again. Yeah. No, I feel like there has to be like I think it's 3 3 they probably put everybody together. Maybe next week's like they put them into 3 teams and one person from each of those is sent home and then the rest of them make the merge or something like that. That's kind of how I would expect it. But the way Jeff says like the game will forever be changed. What the hell does that mean? So it's not just a 1 week twist then. It's like a complete format change? I don't know, that scares me.
Yeah. And like I don't want the game to change. I actually kind of like it how it is.
Yeah, it's
I
why
feel
it's
like I've
been
been
on for
watching
50
been
seasons.
watching
Yeah,
50 seasons because it's a pretty good game.
right.
Every so often they'll take a swing that works out. I mean, idols weren't in there at the beginning, but it's like slow and steady, Jeff. Come on. Let's not go too crazy here.
Oh boy. Well, before we get there, let's enjoy the survivor we have for the
Yes.
rest of this episode. So we go back over to Sela, and Rizzo begins what he is calling Operation Bad Blood in an effort to get Charlie voted out. So he already has Dee and Suri on his side, but he needs one more. So he is aiming for Camilla. Now, he tells her this whole story about how Kyle's final words before leaving were to work with Camilla and trust Camilla. And he also informs her then, of course, about the Billie Eilish idol. So Camilla doesn't know whether to believe that whole story about Kyle. Do you think that this was a good move by Rizzo though to try this, or would it have been better to just kind of cut that part out of it?
I think that there can be some version of this that maybe just wasn't as heavy-handed. Like
Yeah.
Kyle was my number one. He always talked to such good things about you. Like I really want to work with you. Like something like that would make total sense to me. I think Camilla was a little thrown off by the like Kyle told me I was like a little brother to him and we're best friends and he said that I'm going to be, in his vow renewals. So,
In his will, yeah.
yeah. So, I think that read as inauthentic. Camilla knows Kyle and knows like how long that probably took between them alone and how he didn't do that with pretty much anyone. So I think you're running a big risk there. Like even you use the wrong word, it's like I've never heard them say that word. So I think a little bit of an overshoot, especially with Camilla, who I feel like is very savvy.
And Kyle went home on like day 2, right? Like if this had been a week, then maybe I could see that
Uh-huh.
sounding more realistic. But it was so early on that yeah, I think that Rizzo played it up a little bit too much. But I think the thought was right. Like you do want to make her feel like okay, like if this was someone who Kyle trusted, then I can trust them too. I trust Kyle's judgment. So I think that thought process was right, but yeah, I think he probably went into his acting bag a little bit too much. Tribal mode Rizzo came out there for a second. uh,
Yeah.
but Camilla's kind of torn here. She knows she's going to be the deciding vote. So Charlie, she feels like is playing too slow of a game. She said that was weird to me. I just don't view Charlie as a slow Survivor player.
I think it is like sure the concept of we have our four, we don't really need to stray from that, we don't whatever. Like I could see calling that slow, and maybe Charlie didn't like explore the options enough with Camilla of like, hey, it's me, you, and D. Like, what do you think about Jonathan? What do you think about these people? Like, who would we pull in? Like, like let's talk about the merge, like in any type of way, because they'd been sitting pretty for a number of days, just not losing challenge, not losing challenge, not losing challenge. So I maybe he wasn't doing enough there and was spending too much time with Jonathan, which really did not have on my bingo card of Charlie and Jonathan having this like
Gosh, who
bromance
did?
that isolated other people on the season. But I think the instinct is you should be playing the pre-merge pretty slow. Ideally, you don't need to make big flashy moves for no reason. Get to the merge, and then you can really start, hamming it up.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think that Charlie unfortunately just got to her second about the idol information, which to her probably confirmed that, oh, Rizzo was telling the truth about at least that part of it, which I think like she probably already guessed. Like that how who would be able to make that up, the Billie Eilish idol? Like that is so out of nowhere, out of the blue that like it has to be real. But I think the Charlie doing that was like, okay, well, now I know that Rizzo was telling the truth, at least about that part of it. And he told me first, which makes me feel like he values me as an alliance member more than Charlie does.
And I think especially I'm assuming that Rizzo probably told Camilla, like, yeah, and then Charlie told Jonathan. And like if someone is
Oh,
sharing the
yeah.
information with Jonathan before they are me, like that is going to raise some red flags. I know, okay, maybe Dee and Camilla were super close, so like Charlie just went to the other person available from their four, but I still would be a little worried. I really thought from the moment we saw, the original tribe that they all came from, that uh Charlie and Dee would be working very closely together. I could have seen how Camilla would have fit into that very easily. So I thought no chance these three were breaking up this week, right up until about the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Rizzo and Suri then have a conversation that we talked a little bit about earlier, but Rizzo tells Suri about the idol that he was given. And in turn, Suri also feels like then that she needs to give Rizzo some information as well. So she tells him about the extra vote that Ozzy gave her. And this was so weird to me. This whole conversation was weird to me because it was like Suri, like someone convinced Suri to like give up information she didn't really need to give up. I was like, this feels odd and weird, and I don't like it.
I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. I feel like there are very few people who can disarm Suri, but when it happens, it's just like the most catastrophic thing in the world. And so I'm a little bit worried about what this could spell out. I feel like the extra vote was a nice, clean secret that was not really out there. And just any information going to one additional person, I think, next to guarantees that it's going to be known by everyone in the game very shortly.
I would bet Suri, when she finds out that the merge is coming so soon, is her stomach probably dropped a bit. 'Cause I think that she thought, at the very least, we have like three more votes before merge. And who knows what could happen at that point. But it's like, okay, I'll tell him now. We'll build a really close relationship for the next however many days. And then he's not going to run and tell this information because we're going to be like this by that point. But the problem is that's coming so soon that it's like, oh God, maybe we didn't have enough time to establish that close relationship. And if Rizzo then finds closer allies with one of the other 16 people, then I'm screwed and he has information on me that nobody else does. So that really does worry me. But I hope that Rizzo is as loyal to his pre-merge group that he was in 49.
As last time, that would be nice. Yeah, and I'm not talking about like the Colbys and other people from his past tribe.
Yeah, no.
I
Only
it's funny because you would think that Suri wants to get past the pre-merge, typically when she is the most vulnerable. These pre-merge challenges, not always necessarily the biggest selling point to her game. So Suri generally like, okay, if she makes it to the merge, then she's going to dominate. That's the big concern. But I think with 17 people and as big of a target, that's just so many tribals to have to last. At least she was able to sit out like two-thirds of them before this,
yeah.
at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and I even am more worried because she could get screwed if it's like small tribals of 5 or 6 people, like we kind of I think at least I expect it to be in the
Yeah.
next one of the next 2 episodes, we're gonna get some double, triple tribals, and with random groups, and if Suri gets stuck in a bad spot, a bad group, and, Rizzo's there with her, then or not there with her, but he had a chance to tell somebody who is in her group before they split into group. Who knows what could happen? But I'm a little bit worried. But I trust if anyone I trust to get out of a situation, it's Suri.
Amen.
Well, let's go over to Vatu then. So Christian, Emily, Stephanie, and Ozzy agree to vote for Angelina. It feels like it's going to be an easy vote. They tell her that it's going to be Stephanie. But Ozzy really still would rather get out Christian because of what happened with the Mike White vote. He still has a vendetta there and really wants to get out Christian. Do you think that's a better move for
I think Ozzy's focused on what's better for TV. That's all I can't get out of my
him?
mind since,
Yeah.
like, the I don't know how much we talk about exit interviews, but I think,
Yeah, sure.
Q, I believe, right, was talking about how Ozzy at one point was like, "Oh no, I just did that all for TV, like the coach stuff. Like I'm fine." And so that's all I can look at when I see Ozzy, whether it's trying to work with Mike White to get on the White Lotus, or
Oh, sure, yeah, definitely.
yeah, or trying to have a big moment here or there on this season, whether he's like, "Oh, I'm pissed at Christian," and whatever. Like, how authentic is every single thing? I think Ozzy does have quite the history of being a very petty Survivor player, and so I was surprised that Christian was so surprised to see that Ozzy is like, quote unquote, a big baby that really falls in line with what I know of Ozzy's past seasons. So I think in terms of should Ozzy want to get Christian out, it's not surprising, and I think he should. I think pretty much every single person here is better for his game than Christian.
Yeah. We didn't talk about this at the beginning, but I loved the flashback to Cochrane in South Pacific that we got, and it was so crazy how similar it was. Where it was like they were even standing in the same positions and like saying the same things, and it was like, wow, this is so incredibly parallel. Like, who knew how important Survivor South Pacific would be?
I've always known.
He was a South Pacific stan.
I've always been a South Pacific stan. It's a weird season, but it
So
brings
weird.
something totally unique.
Yeah, it just has this weird, like, religious undertones to it that always
Yep.
made me feel weird. Like, maybe if I go back and watch it now, I'd feel differently, but, like, just in my mind, it has such a weird feel to it when I think about it, but
Yeah.
it's
I just
become
feel
must-watch TV.
I think if Coach wins that season, it's not at the top of my list, and usually the winner doesn't
Mm,
matter entirely, but for me, but I feel like the story wraps up in such a way that's like, all right, and justice was had.
sure, of course, yes. Well, we then get Ozzy deciding, in deciding whether to target Christian, he decides to go and talk to him and ask him to give him his shot in the dark as a sign of trust. This felt like Ozzy pulling a Natalie move of "Give me the idol; it's a sign of trust," and like learning from Micronesia. This felt like him kind of doing a smaller version of that to me. But do you think that Christian should or shouldn't have done that?
I think do it. I
Yeah.
think regardless, the shot in the dark is probably not going to bring you a lot. You have to first of all know you're going home, still have the shot in the dark, and it gets like lands on the correct, safe. So I think the chances of that really working out for you much better are so small anyway that if someone is saying this will make a difference for me, sure, take it. I don't care. It's really not something that I would be betting my survivor game on anyway. So I think for Ozzy, it came off to me like this is something I've seen on TV once and I should be doing.
Yeah.
And I think it will be entertaining. But I didn't think it made a whole lot of sense in the context of like Ozzy and Christian are supposedly working together. They have mutual allies. They're going to vote someone out. But I need your shot in the dark. Like, sure, okay. This is really the story doesn't follow all the way through for me, but
Yeah.
Christian, yeah, do it. Even if it's just to disarm Ozzy. Like, yeah,
Right.
we're not going to vote Ozzy out this time, but like, sure. I'm not scheming on you. Sure, whatever.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think you do it, but I think he honestly needed to do it immediately. Because then
Yes.
it's like I think that he kind of got the worst of both worlds by waiting. I don't know how long he ended up waiting, but it seemed like a long time. And then it's like, okay, you had to really think hard about that, and okay, you still had to give it up, but you're not getting his full trust really because you had to wait so long and it was such a question mark. Whereas I think like you just kind of have to immediately in that moment
100%.
be like, of course, whatever you need.
Yep, 100%. I think that the waiting was the big mistake here. I think really Ozzy was never going to be satisfied no matter what happened. Like
Yeah,
Christian could have
sure.
handed him an idol and it still would not have done anything for him. I think that Ozzy was always going to be upset and petty, but I think waiting only allowed him to justify his point of view to himself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, then well, let's go to then Vatu's tribal. So Jeff starts to do impressions of the players on Survivor 50. Was this more or less cringy to you than his rap?
Ooh, ooh. I think it's less because he should know that it was going to go so terribly when he rapped. Like, I just don't think there's a world in which Jeff Probst should be able to convince himself that that was going to be a fun thing to do. Whereas the impressions, I can at least see how he thought this was going to be funny,
Yeah.
even if it was really cringy. Sometimes, like, I don't know if you should be doing this. Like, I felt like, I don't know. And in what world is Jonathan asking what year vintage a bottle of wine is? That's never happening. That is the stupidest thing that I saw. Like, oh yeah, Mr. Like, what year is this wine? He doesn't know that wines have years. That's so stupid.
It was so specific that it was like, did he do that one time maybe? Like, did he ask him that, like, at a rap party? Or I don't know where he even got that from. But
It's
I agree. I think that if the length of the impressions had been the length of the rap, it would have been fine. But it
mm,
kinda just went on and he did more and more, and it was like, "Okay, a couple of these, were decent, but it's drug on." It was like let's let this be our Zach Brown bashing moment. It was like the Zach Brown, if that had been half the length, it would have been okay. But in both cases, I think the length of it made it, very cringy.
they're probably always going to annoy me, but like if it's half the length, it will annoy me half as much.
Yeah,
So at least there would be that. Save it for the On Fire podcast. I guess it got canceled, so he has to pull
rip.
out his bits now.
Yeah.
Which okay, but I hated it. I truly hated it.
Yeah, well, there really wasn't much to talk about at this tribal, I think, as much as there had, been the, "Oh, is it going to be Christian?" And, I wasn't
Ozzy.
100% sure, but sorry, go
Why
ahead.
not Ozzy?
Okay, let's think about that, that's interesting. Um, do you think that they could have gotten the numbers for that?
I think Angelina, Emily, Christian. If Emily is even like it all hinges on Emily. Is Emily down? And in the conversations with
Mhm.
with Christian, you saw very much that Emily was like, "Why is he doing that? What is he doing?" And I think maybe she might feel like it's a little early to cut bait and wants to give him another chance because the ire is not directed at Emily. But if I'm Christian, am at least floating that on the table. Like this man's got to
Yeah.
go. He's not a reliable ally. He's like just as fast as he got mad at me, do you want Ozzy to get mad at you later? Because that is a man you can't talk sense into, is what is what we're seeing.
Mhm. It really did seem like Ozzy had all the power in this vote, and when you put it that way, it's like, why does he have all the power, and why can't the others? Because Christian really seems to have the relationships with both Angel although, would Christian have been able to get Angelina to do anything at this vote? Like, I is
Angelina
Angelina
voted with him. She
That's
voted for
true.
Stephanie. She voted for what she assumed was going to be working with Emily and Christian. She chose Emily and Christian over Ozzy and Stephanie in her mind.
So, I think Angelina said in her exit press that it was really Emily that got her on board with that vote and not
That I
Christian.
believe.
So, I think that Emily then maybe shifts to the person who kind of does have the sway in that, and yeah, I think that probably Christian could have convinced Emily to go for Ozzy if she thought the numbers were there, I could see it.
I wonder what then, like, okay, for Emily, if she wants to keep Ozzy because he still likes her, and she wants to keep Christian because he still likes her, and she wants to keep Angelina because she still likes her, why Stephanie? Why couldn't we just get Stephanie out, which Angelina was obviously down for? So for me, I just felt like Angelina, maybe there was some like reaction to Mike going home that she didn't come off like a trustworthy ally moving forward. But I'm kind of like, who does Angelina have? Why not continue to work with her? It seemed like she was 100% down to work with Emily moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, to me, didn't feel like Angelina did anything particularly wrong to get voted out here. It just to me, it felt like her past coming back and just people not being able to get over the perception that they had of her preseason, that she's this unreliable ally and this person who's gonna be a loose cannon and you can't control her. And that it really didn't seem like she was that this season, but unfortunately, she just couldn't get past the perception of her.
100%. I feel like she came in kind of an unwinnable position, particularly with this many people. There's just going to be a certain number of people that are just counted out right from the beginning. And I think you're looking for an easy boot. It's someone who has this like reputation of not being that reliable. And I think, okay, she like maybe panicked a couple times, but she really did stick with the people that she was otherwise pretty loyal to. So I would not have dismissed her quite as quickly.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think you can dismiss anyone. Like, I think,
Yep.
especially someone who hasn't played in 7 years, like she has, I think you have to kind of give that person a blank slate. Like, you don't forget their past because you don't want to be a victim of, why somebody was not a good ally the first time and then trust them and have to, you know, be the victim of that also. But I think that when you have to give them a chance to be like, okay, this person has changed in 7 years, or maybe the edit of their character wasn't fully truthful to what the experience was out there and what they really were like as an ally. So, yeah, I think it could have just been, it could have been pregame alliances and reputation. It could have been all these different factors that just led to people. It seemed like every vote she was an option, and then it just
Yeah.
finally landed on her.
I think if I'm gonna point to like anything of what we're privy to that maybe she did wrong is I think there was also a little bit of the accusation like maybe Angelina was playing up to cameras through stuff like
Yeah.
attempting a negotiation on the first challenge reward, attempting like the jacket thing here, and like a couple things otherwise. I feel like maybe people could grow a little tired of that and start to question like how authentic is this person being. So like maybe if I'm forced to speculate, which I kind of am because they gave her no storyline this entire season.
Well, on that note, let's talk about what she's been talking about in her exit press. So Angelina's been saying in her exit press for this season today that she feels like the women have gotten a severe lack of screen time as compared to the men on this season. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something that you noticed before she said it?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It feels like as we said, the only three people that have gone to every single tribal are Ozzy, Christian, and Emily. And Christian has 35 confessionals, Ozzy has 34, and Emily has 19. So
Wow.
yeah, that's a big drop off. I mean, if you look at the other people who have had a lot of confessionals, it's like Q, who's been gone for multiple episodes, had 18. Mike had 17. Rizzo has 16. Rick has 17. You have okay, Genevieve has 17. The only other woman who even has like over 12 confessionals, Coach at 15. It's like every man is triple what majority of
That's
the women have on the season.
crazy.
Yeah, it's horrific. It's really, really bad, especially with like so many people that we have been dying to see for years. Like Angelina Keeley is back on Survivor and we purple her. What is going on, especially in a week after like her number one real life best friend gets voted out of the game and she doesn't get to say anything about it at all?
Yeah, like, why are we seeing all of Ozzy's reaction to it? Somebody who he's never played with, and we don't get to see Angelina as the other person of the David versus Goliath trio. I want to see how she feels about Christian now, how she
Yep.
feels about this whole thing as someone who is one of Mike White's closest friends for 7 years outside of this game. Like, that's whose reaction I want to see to this vote. And it's like we don't get it. And the same can be said about someone like Tiffany. She's gotten two confessionals this
Two.
whole season in 5 episodes that are 90 minutes long and a 3 hour premiere. Why
It's
are we
so
only getting
crazy.
two confessionals?
She has 2, Chrissy has 5, D has 6. Like it's so bad. I really don't understand the instinct to just completely erase these women from the season in general. Really anyone obviously, but especially when it's such a pattern that people who like even are actively involved, like Dee's going to tribal council. She's a pretty big player in this week's and nothing. We have nothing to give her.
And I feel
It's
like
so annoying.
it's not that these are women who are wallflowers and have a lack of
Oh my god,
personality.
please.
It's like these are people who were chosen for this season for a reason. This is a previous winner in D and a previous finalist. Like it's crazy how these women who were such big parts of their season and we know have so much to say are just not getting that chance to say it, and it's wild.
If you want me to go through the list of who was I was excited to see on this season, it's not the men.
No, if
It's not
anything,
them.
the women were the ones who I feel like people were not as upset by the choices. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's of course some people who were left out that we would have loved to see, but I feel like the most that people were complaining about were the men that we've seen time after time after time, and yeah, it's wild, and I hope that maybe now that she said something about this and people, it's a topic of conversation more than it was. Maybe they'll go back and revisit and re-edit the next couple of episodes that were done and maybe add a few more confessionals in for some of the women.
I think there's about zero chance that they're unfortunately editing anything within the next 6 episodes. So like maybe they have not started like editing 7 episodes from now, but I just think we are in a dire situation. I really am not excited. As soon as you see like, oh, Coach and Colby and Joe have linked up, like, oh my god, what is the season going to be?
Oh my
So
god.
no guarantee that that is like a dominant alliance that comes out of anything, but it's just I'm seeing threads that make me nervous for the season where I'm struggling to enjoy all the fun parts as much as I otherwise might be.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We will see if this becomes gets worse and worse and worse, or hopefully maybe it will start to improve. But we'll see.
Fingers are crossed. And
Yeah,
like hopefully this season, obviously, but like especially moving forward. Like I do not want
yeah.
this to be a trend.
No, because at least here it's like, okay, we already know these women because they are returning players. So at the very least, we can have a better assumption of the dynamics from their perspective because we know them as people already, versus in a newbie season, this would be so much worse because we don't know anything about them beforehand. So if we're not seeing them in their confessionals, we literally have no idea what their
Yeah.
game could be. So,
I would
you
just feel
know,
even worse for them, being that it was like it could very almost at that point if you're getting purpled like this far in, like it is your one chance. Then that's where
right,
I would feel
right,
really bad for them. These people on their
exactly,
second chance still feel really bad, but at least they've all had one season where they got to shine, or they wouldn't be on 50.
exactly.
So that's nice, but still no excuse.
No.
It's insane how bad it's been.
Yes. All right. Well, if we didn't already say it, Angelina voted out here 4-1. As she's
Gotcha.
leaving, she gives the tribe her jacket, which
It's
was
cute.
cute.
I like it. I know. Okay, I think that she didn't need to come in and do a rice negotiation immediately. She didn't need to do these things because I feel like if that was Angelina and it felt authentic to Angelina, fine. But I feel like almost every other part of Angelina seems to have like grown and matured so much from that first season that that's where like the disconnect is starting to pop
Yeah,
up. And so I think if you want to do like a funny bit on your way out, like a drag race or any other show where they do this, like sure, I guess, I don't know. I don't need it all the time, but for someone like an Angelina, I think it's funny. I liked it.
I
In
agree.
contrast especially to everything else.
It's the one time it's kind of like the equivalent of going in on a live Big Brother, and when you have your vote to Julie, it's like the
Yeah.
one moment that you know is gonna make the show, and so you just give all your shout outs and tell Julie how beautiful she looks, and this is kind of the Survivor equivalent to that, where this is the one moment that you know they can't really cut because you are the focus, you are the one being voted out, you are going to walk your torch to Jeff. It's like, this is your chance to kinda just say whatever, do your little bit, I like it. It's fine. It was a cute way for Angelina to go out on probably the last time she'll play Survivor.
Ooh, that's so tough. Yeah, just especially in how much they're doing returning seasons at this point, and like how much is Angelina saying yes? We know she said no before, so I
Mhm.
think that's unfortunate. I'm not counting out that she could never be asked back again. I think there have been people who have
Yeah.
come back and been purpled and then shown up for a third time, but I think if I was betting, yeah, this is probably Angelina's last.
Yeah. I think if she had made it further this time, and I think she would have had a higher likelihood of returning. I just think, yeah, the combination of, like, being purpled, kinda going out a little early, and now kinda speaking out against the show,
Her too.
maybe they don't love that so much, and, yeah, I think if I were a betting man, I think unfortunately this is probably the last we'll see of Angelina.
I agree. I agree.
But we love her. Sad to see her go this early. But then we go over to Sila's tribal. Really, not a lot before the vote. We talk about the Rizzo and the fact that nobody knew who he was, and we already kind of talked about that. But going into it, did you feel like this was going in Rizzo's direction or Charlie's direction?
It felt like a slam dunk for Rizzo. I felt like there was just no way he was losing this. I felt like they clowned on Charlie really hard, actually. And so I think before this episode, like the Rizzo Charlie stuff was funny, and I didn't think it was necessarily like putting the nail in Charlie's coffin by any means. But as soon as this episode started, I felt like was there clown music behind it? It just felt like the tone was so different, and it really just leading off with the Charlie like waking up Rizzo in the middle of the night. That tone of that scene felt like we were really goofing on him hard. So I did not think there was any way it was going his way, unfortunately. Especially when we didn't get like a D and Charlie scene from the episode at all.
Oh my god, but we didn't get a D and Charlie scene, but we got a scene of D saying that Charlie was, what did she say? The stupidest, like, a stupid player? Or what was that? I was like, "Oh my god,
I think she
D."
said he was like the dumbest player here, which was kind of crazy. Not
Yeah.
super surprising. I feel like D will throw shade. But I for whatever reason thought, I don't know, back to back on fire host. I thought they had probably spoken quite a
Yeah.
bit, back to back seasons. I thought like this would be a pretty natural relationship. And I don't think D loved Charlie.
No, but I think D, like, in her Mike Bloom interview, I wanna say that she touched on, like, Charlie being the
Hmm,
On Fire host and, like, that they had a good relationship. I don't know that it didn't seem like they were, like, close friends, but it seemed like they had spoken and that they were on
sure.
good terms and had a good rapport, so I was like, yeah, it seemed like that those were 2 people who I could very well see work together, and so for her to say that, and then for them to not have any relationship seemingly, that was like, "Oh, wow, that was not how I thought that was gonna go."
And I feel like the like perception as the dumbest player ever could have really helped Charlie if he just made it through to the merge. Like someone who is viewed as, basically they are a winner just without the title,
Yeah.
which I feel like Charlie is pretty much as close to you get to that. I think that it only could have served him to have lowered his threat level this far. And I'm curious to hear from him, like, was that intentional? Does he take offense because he really was trying really hard? Like, I don't know. I haven't gotten to the Charlie exit interviews as much today. So I am curious to see what he has to say about that.
Yeah, I watched a couple of the exit interviews. I watched the one with his one with Rob and his, like, Good Morning, or not Good Morning America, CBS Mornings interview.
Sure.
But the thing I was most curious to see about with Charlie was how he felt after watching Survivor 49 and seeing the fact that Rizzo did vote for his number one ally. And he didn't really say a ton about it, but he basically said, like, yeah, I don't know why Rizzo lied about that. Like, he said he found out from Savannah, I believe, at Ponderosa, about how that actually went. But it was like, do you think that Rizzo lied about that, or do you think that he actually was closer with Soph than Savannah?
I think he lied about it, or at least like exaggerated the truth to distance himself from Savannah on this season. They had like discussed how supposedly they might have even had made up this whole fake story where Sophie won the season, like preseason. They were going
Yeah.
to go through with it, but then didn't at the last second. So I think it was a conscious effort on both of their parts to really distance themselves from each other. And so I think that's one way they did it. And I wonder if they just didn't coordinate the like who Rizzo voted for to win, and so
Mhm.
he was nervous, like, "Ooh, we didn't coordinate this," and the default would be to tell the truth. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell the truth. So and like as to not look sketchy. And unfortunately, it just was like the exact wrong audience. I don't think almost anyone
Right.
else cares.
But what was weird about that to me was that Savannah was already gone by that point, so I didn't know why he would have needed to lie, other than, I guess, if he didn't know what she had already told
Yes.
his tribe, and so he didn't wanna seem like a liar. So that was kind of my one thought, and I guess that does make sense, but
Yeah.
just yeah, I think that there was probably a better way if he had really thought about, "Oh, Charlie is my audience here," there was a better way for him to go about that, but also, it's hard to do it in the moment and make it sound right.
Yes, but I also think Charlie got way too hung up on this. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that, but like, you don't know. You don't know what that season was like. Like, maybe Sophie played an awful game. Like, he has no idea.
Well, and
Um,
also, they're not number 1 allies, so this could work in Charlie's favor if
that's
Rizzo
true
was on the
too.
jury.
That's
Like
true too. I get that. I think I would want people who are a little more predictable, and I think
yeah,
voting for who they're close to are predictable. So I would be interested in that, but it wouldn't set me off on this like vendetta rage that seemed to go.
yeah.
I I wonder if that's just because like Charlie liked Rick and saw value or liked Suri, but didn't go so well.
Yeah. No, it did not. And Charlie is voted out here in a vote of 4-3, a very close vote. And I'm sad to see Charlie go this early. I think he is a very fun player to watch, a very smart player, and I would have loved to have seen him make it to the merge and see how he would have navigated everything. And I just I'm actually I think glad that it wasn't Rizzo because I am more curious I think to see Rizzo's dynamic moving forward. But it's sad to see Charlie leave this early and on his first tribal.
I think I like Charlie a lot more than like the general Twitter audience at least
I do
does.
too.
So I'm a big Charlie guy. I do think that Charlie still has a decent chance of coming back for around three. I think that the show really likes him. I think Jeff really likes him. And I think that like the story's unfinished. So I could see it happening. But as for now, I don't know. I wouldn't be thrilled with this ending.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Charlie's much more likely to have another chance than Angelina is. So I was a little bit less sad just on that note that I do think there is a high likelihood that sometime in the next 10 seasons we
Yeah.
see Charlie back. And I do think they'll start doing returning seasons more often than they did in the 40s. So I think he'll
Fingers
get
crossed. I felt like I saw somewhere that they were like, "Oh, we're not gonna just keep doing it constantly." But I think the ratings have been up to such a degree, at least early on, that like it's kind of undeniable. So hopefully their hand gets at least slightly forced. I don't want to see every other season. I don't want to see Ozzy 8.0, but I would like to revisit some names.
Yeah, I think every 5 seasons to me is like a perfect happy
Same.
medium there. I think that is the right amount of time. I think one of those you do kind of more second chances style, and then one of them on the 10-year anniversaries, you do like more legends. And I think that's a good way to get all of them in there, everybody that you want to see back, and enough time has passed that you kind of get some new faces in the mix there each time, and I think that would be a good cadence moving forward for them.
And it's funny because I feel like I'm generally an advocate for new player seasons are usually better than returning player seasons. I really like getting
They
to know
have
new
been in the
people.
recent past, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I really like getting to know new people. I really think returning player seasons don't live up to the expectations that we set for them decently often. So I am an advocate for it. But it's almost like we had like 10, 9 in a row. I need a
Yeah,
break so that I can
yeah.
appreciate what I love.
Well, I think it's just that they were all so similar because now we
Yeah.
don't get a location change. We don't get the themes. We don't get anything. And so it's like it felt like for the casual audience, I think especially it felt like 9 carbon copies back to back to back, and then finally something new and different feeling. And for us who like really, we podcast about this every week. We listen to podcasts about it every week. We like really study this game. You can distinguish the seasons more than the average viewer. But I
100%.
think for the casual audience, it's like, oh my God, it's finally something besides what we've been seeing for the last 5, 6 years.
Yeah, 100%. I totally get why this is like popping off. And even if it's something that I question, which I like more. You can't deny the energy of a returning player season. The community is just like bursting. So that's super fun.
Yeah, and this one to me, especially 50, feels like it has it broken through to a different audience that, and
Right.
people are like, "Oh my, I haven't watched Survivor in 25 years and now I'm watching it again." And that's exciting to see because I feel like maybe it's something with like the traders audience too. Like I feel like a lot of podcasts that I listen to that cover traders mostly are now covering Survivor just because it's like, oh, it's a natural, thing now. We see now the traders audience knows a lot of Survivor players, and so it's kind of, so I wonder if that how that has helped with it. And but it really does feel like this in particular, more even more than 40, is just like really getting through to a casuals.
Agreed. Yeah, I do think that this has very much broken through. I feel like I have friends who were casual fans and or like had not watched and just were like questioning who was on the season and what's going on. So it's been
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Well, predictions for next week. We do know that there is a 17-person merge allegedly, and whatever, however that's going to work. But if you were to say one name that you think you are most concerned for, who is it?
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm concerned. Was prepared to name five.
Okay, name
With
five.
my theories. No, I was trying to think. The name that I am the most concerned for. I'm gonna pull up a list just so I can make sure I give
I know I do. I
a
need to do that
legitimate
too.
answer. Uh, I want to give a legitimate answer and not just pick off the top of my head. I feel like someone who has been given a little bit of story, but I could see people rallying against. I'm a little nervous for Christian, I won't lie.
Oh, that's who I was gonna say too. I'm nervous for him. Yeah. I think the other person that I'm nervous for is probably Genevieve. I think
I
that
could
we're
see
going
it.
to see the conclusion of the Genevieve and Aubrey feud pretty soon here. I think it's just been building tension, and we're getting to that point where sometime in the next couple episodes, it's going to be one or the other. And I feel like we've seen more from Aubrey as like she's building her way up and gaining allies. And even though we haven't seen like a downfall yet for Genevieve, it feels like Aubrey's upward swing is just kind of in turn going to become a downward swing for Genevieve.
Yeah, I don't know. Genevieve's is hard where I feel like she does have people. Like she's gonna reunite with Rizzo.
Yeah.
She has, Colby, etc. from that tribe. So I'm not looking at it as numbers wise that I'm looking at Genevieve, but just I don't know, I'm nervous for her. So I'm a little nervous for her and I don't want to put it into the ether, but I mean, I'm nervous for Suri.
Nope,
I'm
nope,
always
nope.
nervous for Suri.
Mm-mm, we're cutting it.
I don't want it. I don't want it, but I'm very nervous.
I know. No, I am too. I am too. But I'm just always nervous for Cerise. So it's like, is this a rational fear that I'm having for her now, or is it just like an every episode? This is how I'm
100%.
going to feel that Cerise in the game. It's like when Rob was in on the Traders. It's like I'm just going
Yep.
to be concerned no matter what because I don't want them to be in any danger.
Yeah. Sometimes I live in denial, and so with Rob, I was just like, "Pff, he's not going." So that didn't work out great.
Mm-mm,
But
mm-mm.
yeah, 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 yeah. So there it
Yeah.
is.
All right. Well, before we go, Scally, we are doing something in 2026 that every time that we have a guest on, we are asking them this question. So, at the end of the year, we will be holding our second annual Chatty Award ceremony, and this year we are adding a guest's choice nomination. So every guest gets to nominate one person who it can be from any show you've watched in 2026 that you would like to nominate as your player of the year, or personality of the year. It doesn't have to be from a competition show,
Mhm.
but just somebody who you would like to nominate. And then if any of them have the most votes, they will be the automatic winner. If not, we will decide between anyone who is tied. So who would you like to nominate for this?
Ooh, that's so hard. I'm gonna go ahead and well, has Rob been nominated so far?
He has.
I figured as much. Okay.
But you can give him another vote if
That
you'd
I
like.
ooh, okay. Yeah, let me give Rob a vote.
Okay. I support this. I support it. I'm not sure. I actually can't remember whether he's already gotten 2 votes or just 1, but I know he's gotten at least 1, so I'll have to check the logs there, but, I support him getting all the votes, so I,
Love it.
am not upset about that. Alright, well, Scally, this was so much fun. Where can our listeners find you? Anything to plug before we go?
No, thank you so much for having me again. This has been very, very fun. If people are looking for anything more from me, I am over on the Free Agents podcast with Matt Ligori talking about the challenge right now, doing a rewatch of old seasons while we wait for the next one to premiere, as well as talking about House of Villains, which has been very fun this season. So go check that out. And then anything else I'm doing will be over on social media at Brian underscore Scally for Twitter, Letterboxd, most of the stuff. And then just Brian Scally on Blue Sky.
And I have to say, you are one of my favorite people to follow on social media. You are the most clever, quick. Like I see the tweets, I'm like, why didn't I think of that first? But you were so quick with it, always. And so a very, very good follow for anyone not already doing so. But yes, Sally, thank you so much for joining us again. Had a blast as always. And thank you so much for listening or watching on YouTube. We will be back next week with more Survivor chat. So be sure to stay with us for that and follow us at Let's Chat Reality on all social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So we will chat with y'all next week. Bye, everyone.